Hello, folks, and welcome to Speedgaming Live 2023's Timespinner Randomizer Tournament. I am Jim the Eternal, and I am happy to present these two racers. We've got mikenekopi on the left and Ehseezed on the right. We'll be referring to them as Pi and Zed. This is round 2 of what I've been taking to calling the second chance bracket. Pi defeating Goku Black to get up here. Or other way around, sorry. Pi defeating Gabriel J. Campos to get here, and Zed beating Goku Black 9974. Both of our racers excited to be here. Probably as excited as I am to commentate and bring you some really good Timespinner races. So let's go. We've got Ice Orb Minus. What a fantastic start. Oh no, this is going to be one of those seeds, isn't it? You can see the damage randomizer in effect here already. Weapons and spells can come in plus, minus, or neutral varieties. Plus being double the base vanilla damage, minus being half the base vanilla damage, and neutral being the same damage as vanilla. And then we have Aura Serpent for our spell. So, Ice Minus is probably one of the most painful starting orbs. Ice actually a better orb than it looks, because you can get 2 hits off it. But the arc is fairly difficult to use effectively, and at minus they're not going to be getting much damage out of it. But hopefully we'll be seeing some better damage in the near future, although Eternal Brooch is not it. So the thing that I'm really interested to see from these racers is where they decide to head once we start getting some progression. At the moment, there's not a whole lot of variety that we can see here. There is one chest to the left that pretty much everybody gets, and then we should see our racers heading to the right into the castle afterwards. I haven't seen a map check yet, so we may or may not have some really interesting flooded locations. I suppose we'll see those when we get there. But in the meantime, it's going to be some good movement from our runners, but not a whole lot of variety until we see some progression. So I guess let's talk about what else is new and interesting for this particular race from last year. In addition to the flooded things that we were talking about, there is also the Enter Sandman flag combined with the Unchained Keys flag. So Enter Sandman allows us to access the pyramid early, the pyramid being the location for the final boss. You can't fight the boss until you have all 5 pieces of the Timespinner. So that is the the end goal either way. But the locations in the Empress Robe. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit more damage for our runners. A little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. And here we see our first divergence. So this plays into the Unchained Keys flag, which is also new to this race from last year. Our racers are starting with the Twin Pyramid Key, which is access to warp rooms. Which means that Zed dipping down here in order to get this warp means that no matter what, he'll be able to warp to this location later. It takes him a little bit further out of the way, so you're seeing him a little bit behind Pi for now, but he'll be making up that time when they eventually decide to go to the Siren's Caves, because he'll be able to warp straight there. The other thing about Unchained Keys is that means that access to the other time periods are all gated by their own drops. Sorry, 1 second here. Nope, we're good. Yeah, access to each separate time period is gated by their own drop. So there is a separate drop for the past, present, and pyramid time periods, and each of them will unlock a warp room that our runners will have free access to when they get that item. The moat here being flooded means that regardless of runners' individual choices, they're going to have to be skipping the mode until they get the water mask, access to underwater checks. So until then, we'll see them continuing on. No real progression found so far. They found Kobo, as you can see on the tracker, one of the familiars. But that's not going to do much for them until they make it into the present. Kobo gating one of the Geyer bosses, a particularly difficult end boss location. Of course, with boss randomizer, who knows who's actually going to be there. But regardless of who's there, they're going to be scaled up because of the location of the boss. Aha! Ooh, okay, I was gonna start talking some trash about Shattered Minus, but we have Light Wall Plus, which means that Radiant is plus when and if they ever find it. So Light Wall is, of course, progression. Light Wall is one of the forms of infinite vertical movement for our racers. It's the slow one, the one that costs a bunch of aura, a bunch of MP to use, but it also is a potent weapon on its own. Light Wall being a platform, essentially, that you can create in front of you, and will deal radiant damage to any enemies that touch it. In addition, it being a platform means you can jump off it, so by creating multiple platforms, you can go as high as you want. Infinite vertical. Although, again, it is expensive. It does cost aura in order to create more light walls. So this early on in the race, our racers might have a problem if they need to drop a bunch of light walls. But for the most part, for anywhere they're trying to get to right now, I think this is going to work out okay for them. Shattered Minus, still a powerful orb. Shattered, actually one of the most powerful base orbs anyway. Deals blunt damage, which hits a lot of things well, like the types and the damage types and resistances line up pretty well. And deals multiple hits per attack, although they scale downward, so you rapidly get to not a whole lot of damage. Wow, this is flooded too? Really not a lot of options for our runners. Shattered being minus means that they're not getting much damage out of it, but, 3 hits per attack means that they're getting 6 damage on those giantesses as opposed to the 1 damage they were getting off of, 1 or 2 damage they were getting off of ice, so still pretty good. So we'd better see a water mask fairly soon. However, they do already have Light Wall, so they can get up to Alana's Towers. There's actually a lot of places they can go right now if they wanted. They can get over the bridge to Lake Serene, but it's fairly standard for them to just continue in the direction that they were continuing. So, not too surprising to see them moving forward here. We'll see whether or not they go to fight whoever's at the Golden Idol location. That's going to be a rough fight given their current tool set. Light Wall Plus might make up the difference, though. That is a very powerful tool. We're seeing both of them go after the spot under the twins with access to fire and security keycard B. Wow. So this is sort of the meta check, the defining meta check for this tournament, and it's paying off here. Access to fire means they can burn some vines, so they'll have access to more checks in the present. And keycard B open up some doors in the present once they get to the present. So not immediately relevant, but definitely relevant once they start exploring the other age that they will eventually have access to. So for now, we'll see if they're going to go after the boss fight, or they're just going to get the checks here and then dip. Succubus Hairkin. Okay, that's really great. So that is the double jump for this game. And combined with Light Wall, really solves a lot of the problems. Oh, Pi going for the boss fight. Ooh, this is a little spicy. We'll see how this goes. Zed dipping, which is the move that I expected. So Zed's gonna probably head up for the warp at the top of Ilana's Towers. Easy to get to with double jump. And then we'll see where they head from there. Probably towards the left side of Serene. Okay, Zarian is actually not the worst boss to find here. Zarian, a difficult boss, a lot of HP in his standard location. He's going to be scaled down because he's at the Twins location. And Zarian is weak to Radiant, so you can see Pi making real short work with that Light Wall plus. Light Wall doing a ridiculous amount of damage there. Zed actually going up to Alana's Towers. Okay, this is not the move that I expected, but I'm excited to see where this goes for him. With access to double jump and light wall, he'll be able to get everything in the towers. He'll be able to get access to warp shards by getting to one of the shops. So now that I think about it, I like this move. Although he has not warped yet, Wef making a really good point. He hasn't warped yet, so he'll not be able to warp out of here. He'll still have to make the long walk back to the warp room, if indeed he goes all the way to the top and kills Ilana. Or whoever's at Ilana's location. Spending some time at the shop, selling some stuff off, see what he'll find. Oh, Ether's in the shop! That's really good. So he'll have access to MP consumables, which pretty relevant considering how much MP he's going to have to use in order to get those light walls all the way to the top. Pi now having defeated the boss, making the same choice. So moving up to Ilana's towers, our runners still broadly headed in the same direction. So we'll see what comes up. Zed a little bit ahead at this point. Not by a lot, but a little bit. However, Pi does have that extra boss under his belt. So if the bosses end up mattering, which they won't necessarily, it's distinctly possible that they won't need to kill these bosses. But if the bosses end up mattering, Pi has that slight advantage. A gas mask for Zed, alright. The progression is coming, and there's Pi right behind him getting his own gas mask. So this puts the third boss, so the boss that they're heading towards right now is Ilana, or whoever's at Ilana's location. The Golden Twins boss, Pi's already killed, and the Maw is the third boss that's required in order to get access to the lab once they make it to the present. Basically, the entire right side, call it the right third of the map, is gated by killing these three bosses. Zed, wow, Zed just warping out. Okay, so Zed's not going all the way to the towers, or not going all the way up to Ilana. Took the warp shards and dipped. I guess Zed warped at some point previously. I don't remember seeing that. Fairly certain that Pi didn't, but okay, well, great. That good for Zed, honestly. I'm not sure how I feel about this play. Ilana's Towers is full clearable with a light wall and double jump. Pi heading up to Ilana's Towers, so we'll see whether or not there's anything relevant in the towers that Zed is kind of skipping out on. But Zed taking the time to head over to Lake Serene, so we'll be seeing an entirely new part of the map here. And, you know, without access to Water Mask, there's potentially not a lot that we can do here. I don't know whether or not Serene is flooded. But with Double Jump, he's not going to get stuck over here. So this location with this pink bird, if you come back into this room, there's the Cantor and boss fight. And without access to vertical here, specifically, there's the possibility of getting stuck on this side of the map, because you have no way to get to any of the warps. Although Zed does have his warp shards, so he would be fine regardless. It looked like Serene was drained, so there's another couple of checks they have access to. Going through here and burning the vines seems like a great call. It's so tough to keep track of both sides right now. Oh, the Timespinner wheel up at the top of Ilana's Towers. So that's something that Zed's going to need to come back to, as well as the modern warp beacon to the library. So that's a great warp to have access to. Wow. Pi getting rewarded for staying in the towers. Zed doing the horseshoe style movement that I personally favor here. Going up, burning the vines, coming back down, not coming back down. Zed, where are we going? Are we going to fight Cantorin? All right. Show me a fight. Genza. Genza, I think also weak to Radiant, or maybe just neutral to Radiant. Still, that light wall doing a lot more damage than anything else in Zed's arsenal. Weak, neutral, or resistant. This is a somewhat endgamey location, so it's a bit of a hard boss fight. Looks like he has an Iron Orb neutral, which isn't gonna really get a whole lot done, but is going to be better than any of his minus orbs. Pi, meanwhile, fighting Young Dad, the young Emperor Nuvius, at Ilana's location. Young Dad differentiated by Old Dad by having a few less attacks available to him. Was that a death? That looked like a death. Oh, did he just... Oh, he saved and quit out. Okay, that's also reasonable. Again, not a lot of damage for that particular fight. But yeah, checking out the rest of Lake Serene here. Pi also not having a lot of damage, but Light Wall... The problem with this fight in Light Wall is while Light Wall is an effective tool, this boss moves around a lot. So you don't get as much value out of each individual Light Wall. It costs a lot of aura to place more. But there it goes. Young Nuvius going down. And Pi has access to the rest of Ilana's towers. Getting immediately rewarded? Will we see immediate rewards? Nothing. And Pi's warping out. Pi's done with the towers. We did get some really good rewards from towers overall, though. We got the Pyramid Warp. Or not the Pyramid Warp, the Present Warp. And we got the Timespinner Wheel. So Zed's gonna have to go back there eventually. Zed clearing out the bottom of Lake Serene. With a tablet for his troubles, but nothing else good yet. The tablet only going to be relevant once Zed makes it to the modern era. Shadow Seal, oh, that's going to be amazing for damage. Even with the minus orbs, Shadow Seal could do some good work. Shadow Seal allows you to play some dangerous games, trade your HP in for damage. The lower your HP, the higher damage boost Shadow Seal gives you. Better with fast orbs, but Shadow Seal Shattered is a very fast orb. Ice also a surprisingly fast orb. Shadow Seal works great with Shattered. Even though Shattered is minus, there'll still be a decent damage boost from having Shadow Seal equipped. So Pi now heading in this direction. Pi had the choice between going to the modern era and hanging out in the library, and heading this direction towards Lake Serene. And it looks like Pi is choosing the Lake Serene option. So we'll see Pi following in Zed's footsteps, picking up pretty much the same things that Zed has. Zed picking up the D card, another thing relevant to the present, in order to get out of the library and head to the right. That's going to be important. So Pi has no access to the right side of the map for the library. Zed, once he gets the modern warp beacon, is going to have that access, but still doesn't have the warp. So, both of them in some slightly weird positions here. I guess Pi following in Zed's footsteps here, Pi's going to find that D card, Pi's going to find that tablet, and that's going to be the entirety of the library open to them, so they're going to be excited for that. Zed now fighting Sandman at the Azure Queen location. Sandman notoriously weak to fire, so these Infernal Flames, I think the Infernal Flames were plus? Doing some real good job against the completely stationary first phase of Sandman. Pi, not a lot to say about what Pi's doing. Pi's making all the same checks at about the same pace. So, still not any real advantage for any one person yet. I think Pi is going to appreciate that he has the tablet and the D card by the time he goes to the library. So if Zed heads towards Ilana's towers after this, that'll put them on pretty even footing. Didn't quite see where he warped. Okay, Zed going into the Caves of Banishment. Understandable given the gas mask. And so this will give him access to that third boss, although Zed hasn't killed the other two. So this still doesn't give him access to the military hangar after this is done. but it does open up a couple of checks in the modern area that wouldn't otherwise be available, the crash site checks in Lake Desolation. But again, those only matter once he has access to the present. So he's still going to need to go to Alana's Towers in order to get that modern warp beacon. Pi picking up... Ooh, there was a lab coat on the floor in front of the Azure Queen fight. Pi picking up that lab coat and heading into the Sandman fight here. So we're going to see what's in the caves here for Zed. We might not see what's in the caves on Pi's side. Pi might decide to head to the library after this instead of going down into the Caves of Banishment. But we'll see after this boss fight's over. Zed finding that Radiant Plus. Oh, that's exciting. This is a location that frequently you can bail out of. You can save and quit in order to not have to jump all the way back up to the top. But that Radiant Plus is going to be a big deal, and in Zed's shoes, I would keep it as well. This means that they finally have an orb that deals a decent amount of damage. This will scale well with the Shadow Seal, although it's a much slower attack. So without orb swapping, they're not going to get as big of a boost from Shadow Seal directly. But it is just going to be some huge damage, given that it is plus. Pi making that library call. Yep. This is about what I expected for Pi. So Pi in the modern era now, in the present, getting access to the other shop, the present shop, refilling on those warp shards. And with the D card... Oh, he didn't get the tablet! Where was the tablet that Pi didn't get it? Both of them simultaneously in heavy rooms. Whoa, Celestial Sash for Zed! That's, not the biggest of deals. It doesn't change what he has access to, but it is going to speed up a lot of vertical. And if Pi ends up going there... Zed going there before doing Alana's Towers means that he'll be moving a lot quicker in Alana's Towers. So he will actually gain a bit of advantage from doing things in the order that he decided on. We have a Fire Plus for Pi. So Pi's not stuck with his neutral iron. Zed's still on the Iron Orb, which, while a big hitter, is only neutral. Pi checking the Ifrit location. This is some confidence that I would not have in Pi's shoes. Meeting the incredibly scaled boots here. And please don't die. That's a lot of damage that you've taken. So this is one of the two post-game boss locations, Ifrit and Ravenlord. So seeing the first boss of the game here is scarier than it would appear, because that boss is going to be scaled up both in the HP they have and the damage they deal. So you can see Pi taking a ton of damage from those falling rocks. And struggling to get anything else done. Iron Orb doing a decent amount of damage here. Fire, I think Boots is strong to fire. Yeah, those rocks doing a number. That's going to hurt a bit. Pi's going to have to get all the checks that he found in the library again. Hopefully he doesn't forget the good ones. Zed moving on to the Maw boss fight. Seeing Varndagroth here in the Maw's location. Varndagroth weak to Radiant, making this a very short fight. Man, that was smooth. That was a couple of light walls and stand still and throw some Radiant bombs at him, and it was over. That was great. So we'll see where Zed heads next after here. There's the checkup here that he's going to get with the power of the Celestial Sash, making this otherwise somewhat annoying climb much, much easier. With Pyramid access now. All right, well, that means that our racers don't need to head to the lab necessarily, although the lab might still have some Timespinner pieces. But pyramid access means that they have access to the checks in the pyramid, as well as, once they have all the Timespinner pieces, access to that final boss fight. Is it an inner pyramid warp? Okay, that doesn't matter too much since Sash. Once Pi heads in that direction, they'll get the Sash before they get the pyramid access. But inner pyramid means that they don't have to have infinite vertical to make it to the final bosses. Although it's still extremely helpful to have some extra vertical in order to make it through the pyramid. The pyramid is difficult to navigate. Checking Bat Ledge on Zed's side, nothing particularly relevant there. Pi making his way through the Varndegree Towers, the elevator towers as they're called. Without the elevator key card, there's a couple of checks that aren't particularly accessible. He's not going to be able to make it over to the right side of the towers from here. But checking what he can. And I think that means that he's going to have to head back down and out from here. B key card means that he can head to the right. He doesn't need to stay in the towers in order to get access to the right side. So he might head right from here. Of course, we know that there are some real goodies in the past if he decides to go to the Maw Cave. Zed now heading towards Alana's towers. That Celestial Sash going to make up quite a bit of time compared to Pi's traversal. Yep, Pi heading on over to the right side of the towers. Again, without elevator keycard, there's still a bunch of stuff that's going to be gated. But there are a few checks over on this side, and grabbing the warp's never a bad idea. Yeah, even compared to double jump light wall, which is pretty powerful, the Celestial Sash just moves you so quickly when all you're doing is vertical traversal. A Timespinner gear for Pi. So Pi now has 2 pieces of the Timespinner to Zed's 0. Zed is going to find one of his pieces here in Alana's towers. But we are still quite a ways out. 3 more pieces of the Timespinner, and Pi needs to find his pyramid access before we're going to be out of this game. By using a warp shard out of a warp room in order to get back to his previous warp room. Some strong autopilot right there. Alright, Pi, where are we going? Pi sticking to the present. Okay. Pi deciding if the seed is going to give me present access, then by God, I am going to take advantage of it. Heading out of the library here, and presumably heading left towards the Lake Desolation area. Pi does have fire, but I'm not sure that they burned all of the vines. They might have. Oh, I guess Pi took the top route in Serene. In Serene. So, they have burned all the vines. They haven't killed Maw yet, so they're not going to have access to the crash site checks. But they will have access to all of the other stuff there. Zed getting that wheel that we know is up at the top of the Struggle Juggle, and getting that modern warp beacon. So Zed now finally has his present access. And we should see him heading to the present momentarily. There is not much left in the past. Couple of one-offs. Neither of our racers going for the vertical required checks that they have skipped. The Engineer Jump, the Bombardier Chest, all passed on. No, although I think one of them did go for Bat Ledge. There wasn't anything relevant there. No Water Mask yet, so all of the underwater checks, not available yet. But presumably Water Mask is going to be available at some point during this seed, maybe. Zed does have the tablet, which Pi did not pick up on his way in. So Zed will be able to access the entirety of the library. There's a couple of the checks that we didn't see from Pi's side. And Pi beating up on Nightmare in the Feline Sentry's location. Always fun to see an endgame boss at that first boss location, scaled heavily down. About 400 HP, I believe, for that spot. So, an easy kill no matter who's there. Now we'll be seeing some of the Lake Desolation checks. See if Pi is rewarded for staying in the present, or if going to the past has the answers he needs. Zed also checking that Ifrit location. We'll see how well this works out for him. Taking tons and tons of damage from Boots. Boots just really not playing nicely. Using Radiant, I believe Boots resists Radiant, so this is going to be a tough fight for Zed. Still dealing some decent damage, but he's got to chew through, what, 5k HP, 6k HP, something like that? Ha, and here come the rocks. The Boots special. I still going through Desolation. Nothing particularly impressive so far. Zed cutting things a little close here. Getting some value out of that Shadow Seal. But playing a dangerous game for sure. Gear 2 for Pi. So now we have 3 pieces of the Timespinner on the left side, but no Pyramid access. And 1 piece of the Timespinner on the right side, and Pyramid access. A kill for Zed on Boots, no rewards. Captain's Uniform, a heavily defensive equipment choice, but not going to give the damage boost that our runners are looking for. Now we're seeing some of those downloads. A Wind Orb, not particularly impressive here. We see Pi back in the past now, probably going for those bottom half of Lake Serene checks. I think Pi's gonna... I don't know if Pi's fought Cantorin yet. Not yet. So we're gonna see this fight first. And Pi gonna have a much better time now than whoever was in Cantorin before. I don't remember if it was Pi or Zed in Cantorin before. But this is gonna go a lot smoother with the extra damage that Pi has access to. That looks like Umbra Plus dealing a decent chunk of damage. And of course, with a few more levels under his belt and a bit more HP to work with. Still looking dangerous, though. No, there he goes. He's got it. So what is the reward for the Cantorin fight? A Royal Ring. Which our racers already had a pink necklace, I believe. The Plasma Geyser you can see on Zed's side. So that does unlock access to 2 checks in Ilana's Towers. You can get into Mom's room that way. But our runners already had access and have not been there. Umbra normal. Okay. Alright, well, I mean, Umbra's a good orb regardless. Umbra's nice and fast, strong base damage. So even at normal, not a terrible choice. Pi going through these bottom half of Lake Serene checks. So Pi's going to pick up the tablet. Right there, in fact. That's where Pi is going to pick up the tablet. Zed going through the Desolation checks now. So we should see Zed picking up a lot of the same, not particularly useful items that Pi has already picked up. Our runners doing the high five across time, both several screens away from each other, they're just in different time periods. Plasma neutral, sure. So Pi with that tablet may decide to prioritize getting access to the lab. May decide that now is the time to go to the mall. Zed, I believe, hasn't fought the Golden Idol location, so is 2 of 3 for right side access. Maw chests, like everything else in Desolation, Maw chests have nothing. I would like to see Zed get that right side access. Right side is pretty deep, a lot of checks in the lab. So once Zed finishes with the Desolation, I think Zed's not going to have that many more options. Getting that gear, oh, that's their first gear. That's their first gear? Did they miss a gear? Where was that other gear for Pi? Oh, in the towers! Right, in the elevator towers, in Vartigray towers. Okay, so yeah, Zed hasn't gone right from the pyramid, so hasn't picked up that second gear yet. So Zed now at 2 of 3. Pi at 3 pieces of the time, or 2 of 5 rather. Pi at 3 of 5 on Timespinner pieces, and in Mock Caves now, so likely to find their pyramid access relatively soon. But both of our runners now going through territory that we are familiar with. Zed close to clearing Desolation here. And we'll see what the move is after that. Tagging this warp and going to check Skelly, my favorite check. The skeleton right in front of the Zarian doors. An easy check to skip, and when he has something good, that's a very useful check to get. Pi picking up his own Radiant Plus and dipping. Pi deciding Radiant not worth the time. Whew. That's some kind of confidence. And heading through the rest of Moss Towers. I'm just in awe at the confidence you have to have in your current set of orbs, your combat abilities to just skip past Radiant Plus. Pi, what a guy. What a guy. We have the Spindle on Zed's side. Interesting. So I guess Pi never went to the bottom of Desolation? I didn't realize these checks were unchecked. Okay, Zed finding something new indeed. So Zed now at 3 of 5. We know his 4th piece, one of the gears, one of the gears that he's missing, is going to be at the elevator towers. And we don't yet know where the 5th gear is going to be. Could very well be in the pyramid. Zed currently has access to the pyramid. Pi now heading out of the library to the right side, so even without the elevator key card, has access to a fair number of the elevator checks, just like Pi did. We'll probably do left side of the elevator. Or not! Or not. Deciding that going to the elevator checks, going to the Vartigray Towers checks, isn't worth it without the elevator key card. A decision, I think this is a reasonable decision to make. Making those checks is a lot faster with the key card in hand. Hopefully he doesn't skip the gear here, since it is an easy check to make, doesn't require any kind of access. Yep, there he goes. So that's 4 pieces out of 5. The other meta check for this tournament is now heading to the Ancient Pyramid. Yep, here he goes. Checking the door right before Sandman. This is a low value check that has had a surprisingly high hit rate for our runners in this tournament. This was an important check in the qualifier seed. I saw at least one race where this had the last piece of the time spinner. So if this is the last piece of the time spinner for Zed, we could see things end right here. It's an Empire Crown. Well, that's good damage, but it is not a time spinner piece. But Zed is officially on a gear hunt. Needs to do a little bit more work in order to have access to all the checks on the right side of the present. Deciding to check out the rest of the pyramid. Fine choice. At this point, the gear could be literally anywhere. So it's a matter of rolling the dice and rolling high. High in... That looks like Upper Caves of Banishment. There are 2 checks available here. One was Corruption minus. There are a couple of other checks that are gated by Water Mask, which neither of our runners have yet found. None of these underwater checks are gettable at the moment. Bees. Corruption and bees. extremely valuable Sphere 1 Upper Caves checks. Zed checking Regret Chest now. So named because it is very far out of the way and frequently has nothing in it but regret. Hilaria attachment, not exactly regret. I think Zed is not regretting checking Regret Chest. Pi fighting his way out of the Siren Caves here. What is the next move for you, Pi? Where will we see you headed? I think Pi is heading this way in order to get the Bat Ledge check. Zed getting the last few checks in the pyramid. One more check left. And yeah, it's down to a roll of the dice now. It's down to Zed deciding to check the right location at the right time. Pi now, with that pyramid access, might decide to head to the pyramid. We know that the spindle is there for Pi in Desolation. But Pi is going to have to backtrack a little bit in order to get that. With the tablet in hand, Pi now making all of those download checks in the library that he wasn't able to make the first time through. Still skipping out on the Ifrit fight. Zed now going through the elevator towers without the elevator keycard. So a bit of a slower traversal than if he had it, but you know, all of us rolling dice here. I think this is a not unreasonable choice, given that he has the access and it's right here. Zed could also go kill the golden idol and head towards the right side of the present. Zed could... There's a bunch of one-off checks in the past that I think our racers have missed out on so far. Pi heading into the other half of Lake Desolation, so Pi should be getting the spindle pretty soon. Zed checking... Yep, Zed checking the pink room here, so we'll see if that has it. And then probably killing the idol. I would be surprised if Zed dodges the idol yet again. Pi getting the crash site checks first, and then presumably heading to the bottom of Lake Desolation for the spindle and associated checks. Much like Zed, spindle might lead Pi to the pyramid. As I was saying before, it is kind of the meta. So he might pick up the Teleria as a result of getting the spindle. Or he might just decide that the pyramid never has anything, and the gear... I mean, Pi's going to be in the same position as Zed, right? It's a gear hunt. Gear could be anywhere. Zed killing off Zarian at Golden Idol. And now going back for some of the one-off vertical checks that we missed. So we'll see Bombardiers here. And we'll see the Engineer jump as well. And is it going to be the gear? No, high potion. That's fine. That's fine. I didn't want a gear anyway. What's next on the list, Zed? Where are we headed? Right side? I like this. Yeah, the right side of the map is pretty dense. Skipping past the Gyre, it could be in the Gyre. Zed does have the wheel, so it is not impossible for the last gear to be in the Temporal Gyre. But skipping past it for now, which, understandable, slow. Getting Jin Inferno at the top of the present Bombardier checks. Pi checking Skelly for that Warp Shard. No A key card, so can't make it into Zarian's Caves yet. And Pi following in Zed's footsteps, this time without Teleria, though. Ah, but Pi checking the Gyre. So we'll see whether or not the Gyre has the magic gear or not. But that Teleria attachment definitely helping Zed with the movement here, moving real fast through this the military hangar area. And yeah, at this point I don't have a lot to say. Like, Zed's moving faster, Zed has an advantage, but Pi's checking stuff that Zed hasn't checked, so the gear could be anywhere. It's just every chest, it's like, is this it? Is this it? Is the race over? Has one of our runners won? That's not a gear. Pi, or Zed at the top of the lab. Picking up the elevator keycard in the lab. What a fantastic place for an elevator keycard. Not breaking the wall? Okay, Zed, don't scare me like that. Missing checks is a bad idea. Source, I have missed checks in the past. Nothing out of the Gyre so far. 2 chests in, 1 more chest available. Pi fighting, what are these, nether demons, I think they're called? Only damageable while time is stopped. And even then, kind of a pain to deal with. But also, you could just not. You could just wait. And that seems to be what Pi is opting for here. Just gonna wait it out and head out of the room when the timer runs out. V card powering the lab, so that's 3 more download checks in the library. Pi finishing up this central lab loop. Or Zed, rather. Zed finishing up the central lab loop. And heading up towards Genza and the Emperor's Towers. Ravenlord fight not currently in logic, not currently accessible, so we're not going to see that particular dip. Zed Peep 13, it had Gun Orb, so not particularly useful at this late stage of the game. But here comes the Genza fight. Genza also potentially hiding a check. Cantering at Genza. Radiant, not very good against Cantorin, both because of Cantorin's mobility and because Cantorin resists light. Pi now done with the Gyre and heading through the rest of the military hangar. Zed trying all kinds of options, finally setting on Radiant as the best of the available, and eventually knocking out that Cantorin fight. Heading to Emperor's Towers? Might as well, it's right here. Maybe Dad's been hiding a gear this whole time. Maybe Dad has a present for Lunaeus. It's the last piece of the Timespinner. Go break time, girl. You got this. There it is! Timespinner Gear 3 in Dad's Towers. And Zed's going to immediately head to the pyramid and start on that final boss check. Oh no! That's a horrible death for Pi. Oh, that sucks. Yep, that's a lot of backtracking. He's gonna need to go get the spindle again. He's gonna need to get the mysterious beacon again. Oh, that's gotta be so frustrating for him. He's gonna see Zed's finish in a hot second, and I wouldn't be surprised to just see an instant forfeit. That's gotta be so disheartening. Zed making short work of Nightmare, weak to Radiant. Any boss weak to Radiant is gonna have a hard time against Radiant Plus and Lightwall. And facing Azure Queen as the final boss. halfway through that fight now. Oh, yep, there it is. I'm a little bit ahead because of the restream time, but finish for Zed and an instant forfeit for Pi. Zed just tanking the damage here. Understandable. With Shadow Seal and the health pool that Zed has, he must feel fairly invincible. Might need to heal here. But he also has the consumables to make this work. But Zed, our winner, with a official race time of 49:57. And we'll see if we can't get our racers into the commentary booth. Hello, Pi. Welcome in.
God bless it.
That must have been so disheartening right at the end.
I just didn't think it was going to hit that hard, and all of a sudden, nope, it hit that hard.
Yeah, they do that. That absolutely happens.
But no, like, that first death was whatever. Boots at Inferno was mean, but I guess that's fine. I didn't find anything, no real time loss. But that second one in the hangars, I'm like,
Yeah, that's real rough.
It's fine. So
now we have Zed in here. Zed, Congratulations on your win.
Thank you so much. My heart is racing right now.
that felt really good up until that final death. Like, that seed was rough start, like my last one against Gabe, and then this one actually just went better once we got those couple normal orbs.
Yeah, the damage was not very friendly at the beginning. So yeah, that was a hell of a seed. So I guess some questions for you both. How are you feeling about the routing, about the decisions you made? Zed, I'll start with you.
Oh, I felt like I was like setting up a route and then found something, changed my mind. Like, I had a plan and I never ever stuck to the plan that I made for myself. I was like, oh well, I just got this. It could be something important over there, and I just was all over the place. Ended up working out for me.
How did you feel finding Teleria in Regret Chest at like 45 minutes into the seed?
I didn't feel bad finding it there. I knew that it was accessible a bit earlier, but who's going out of their way to do Regret Chest?
Yeah.
True story. Pi, you had some fascinating routing, if you don't mind my asking. You had a lot of separating out the top and bottom of Serene and Desolation. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I figured, like, I do the top first in the past to burn out vines. Then when I come back in the present, do the top, and I'll do loops on the bottom, because I figured I was going to do Maw at some point. I'll just take the bottom route, go into Maw. And then in the present, I'll just take the bottom route, get the Zerian get the Zerian warp, just in case I need to come back. And there I was just going to go straight to the hangars, labs, and tower, but I died. Yeah,
that happens. So at the end of the day, it ended up being a gear hunt, as it usually does. Zed finding that spindle in Desolation and being one piece away with the mysterious warp beacon in hand. How are you feeling at that point with what you found and what you have left?
I was prepared for Lab to be total bait. Which it very much did not end up being, but I was so prepared for that.
Yeah, it definitely happens in some seeds.
So, yeah, I warped to Pyramid, found Talaria, and went, okay, we're net neutral on time wasted here.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I was thinking about checking Pyramid at some point. I'm like, you know what? 5 checks. It's kind of lengthy. We don't get the best armors. Getting kind of knocked around a bit. Not worth it.
Yeah.
Especially since it was
Yeah,
inner and not outer pyramid.
Yeah, it was the inner pyramid warp. So that makes the routing a little bit weirder.
Well, so this is the second chance bracket, as we've taken to calling it, which means Pi, unfortunately, you are out of the tournament here.
Hey, okay.
Zed, you're going to be moving on to face the loser of the upcoming Urza MTG versus Waffle Suit match. So, regardless of who wins and who loses that match, you're up against a formidable racer.
That's
How
how
are you
the
feeling
tournament
going into that?
works. I think I'll just continue doing my crazy routing. It'll either pay off or it won't. With how Timespinner Randomizer works, there's not like spheres of logic. It just kind of makes sure that the seed is beatable. So sometimes I get rewarded for being a little bit crazy when it comes to routing.
Well, you certainly got rewarded today. Congratulations on your win, and well raced, both of you. This was an exciting match to commentate, and I think it was a great race to watch.
Yeah. Right. Gotta put on a good show for the fans.
Absolutely. Zed, any final words?
Shoutouts to Speedgaming. Restreams are hard. I learned that last night. Did a homebrew restream of a race, and that's a lot more work than you'd think.
Yeah, big thanks to Speed Gaming for hosting the tournament. Pi, any shoutouts? Anything you want to say?
No, that I feel like I played better than last year. Got a little bit farther than last year, and had just about as much fun.
Well, great. I'm glad you had a good time. I definitely had a good time watching y'all. Let's before we head out here, let me again say thanks to Speed Gaming Live for hosting this tournament. Check out more Timespinner in the future. Check out all the other tournaments they're running. Honestly, there's a bunch of tournaments running right now. Follow our racers. There's links in chat for their Twitch streams. And big shout out to the entire Timespinner community for having such a fantastic game and putting together this tournament. But that's it for us. So thanks for being here, and have a great rest of your day.